Okay, in this session, we're going to discuss about looping statements. So generally in JavaScript, we have four types of loops are there. Well, let us see what are those. First of all, I just created a looping.html page and looping.js page. Okay, so let me connect these two files. So the script I'm going to use source is equal to js slash looping.js. Okay, now let us see what kind of looping statements are there. First we have if you want to execute a set of instructions repeatedly, uh, then we can go for these looping statements. Okay, are used to execute set of statements repeatedly. Okay, then we can go for these looping statements. So in this we have something called while loop statement. Okay, for loop statement. Okay, for in loop statement, for in loop, and we have something called do while loop. Okay, and we have one second. Right. So we have something called while loop, for in loop, and do while loop. Of course, we have something called for each loop is also there, but it's deprecated. So no need to use this one. We are not going to use this one. And last but not least, we have something called for off loop is also there. For off loop. This was introduced in ES6 feature. Okay, this was introduced as a ES6 features. We'll discuss one by one all these things. Okay, I'm not going to discuss about this for loop. Okay, and now let's talk about the while loop first of all. For example, I just want to print a set of, or I just want to display some name repeatedly on the document. Okay, web document. For example, for this, I'm going to take something like a variable. Okay, where I is equal to 0. So I have taken a variable. Okay, and I'm going to use a while loop. The while loop is syntax is like this. You need to use while keyword. After that, you need to place some braces like this, and you start open some braces in order to place some code. And inside these braces, round braces, you need to place some condition. See, our main in this particular, the main motto is I want to print a message repeatedly or for n number of times. Okay, let us take 10 times. Okay, so I'm going to take something like I less than 10. Right. So I just created a while loop statement here. Inside this, I just want to print something like document dot write. Uh, okay, so I just created a document dot write. Inside this, I'm going to place something like with the BR statement. Okay, welcome to JavaScript uh, programming. Okay, I just want to print these statements 10 times. Okay, let us make this one. Let us try to execute this one. Unfortunately, this is going to be an infinite loop. Why? Because we are not updating the I value. So I value stays in 0. So always the condition is satisfied by because 0 is less than 10. So you will get always the condition here in this case, it will return a true value. Okay, so if so, what happens is the while loop is going to execute this kind of statements infinitely, and your browser may enter into what you call deadlock state, or it's going to be blocked. Okay, so in order to avoid that, you need to do something like, and by the way, let me show this one. Open in the browser. Now you can see it's keep on rotating, keep on rotating. I'm not displaying, I'm not able to display any content on the window. Okay, so I need to close it. Okay, you need to close that window, and so you need to update that one. So what I'm going to do, I'm just performing something like I plus plus, the plus plus operator. Okay, so in this case, I'm going for I plus plus, and refresh the page. See, I got something like this. Welcome to JavaScript programming. Got it? That's fine. So I got 10 times. I'm able to repeat the value 10 times. This is called while loop, and the while loop, here you can find some three statements, very important statement. One is initialization, initialization, and we have something called condition, and we have something called iteration. Okay, so if you observe this, you know, uh, we are placing three different statements which are very necessary for this while loop. For example, if you forgot to mention this I plus plus, what happens? It will enter into infinite loop. If you forgot to mention, or if you not properly placed a condition, then it will also enter. Either it may enter into infinite loop, or it may not enter into the loop. Okay, that kind of things that will happen when you go for looping statements. Okay, so for this reason, in order to avoid such kind of what do you call ambiguity or such kind of errorness, okay, we need to avoid that errorness. Okay, for this, the people have introduced something called while statement. Inside this while statement, all these three statements are going to be written in a single line, something like I is equal to I is equal to 0. That is called initialization. I less than 10. That is called condition, and I plus plus iteration. You just open the curly braces and you can write inside of it. That means, in this case, if in this particular example, we have only one statement. What happens if you have 10 lines of code inside a while loop, or 15 lines or 20 lines? So there may be a chance of missing such kind of placing the I++ or erroneously placing of uh, condition, something like that, or forgetting about initialization, something like that. That might be happen. We are humans. We may forgot. Okay, so for this purpose, we always go for loop. Okay, so the for loop, what it will do is we are going to write all these three statements in a single line. Okay, you know, this is initialization, condition, and iteration. So the chance of missing such kind of statements is very less. Why? Because we are maintaining the syntax is like that, where we can place all the code in a single line, all the important statements in a single line inside the for loop. That is the main difference between while and for loop. Okay, but both will execute in the same fashion. Okay, and let me go for the same statement here. Welcome to JavaScript. Welcome to ECMAScript. Welcome to futures. Okay, and I haven't mentioned the version here. Anyway, let's see. Okay, I just place some gap in between these. See, I got the ECMAScript futures here. That's fantastic. And in order to debug this statement, okay, this kind of statements, you just go for the your console window of your browser, refresh the page, you'll find the JS code. Go here, and where you want to test, or where you want to debug the code. So I just want to see what happens in between these two lines, so that I can find any if there is an error or not. And at the same time, I'm going to watch the I variable as well. Okay, now let us run this program. I have I values 0 initially. Okay, see, the statements are executing and I value is updating. That's fine. Oops, something gone wrong. What was the problem? Okay, see, I'm able to print something here. See, I value 5, I value 6. This is the way you can test your looping statements. Okay, and so loop is working fine and it's rotating in up to 10 numbers. That's fine. Okay, and that is the difference between while loop and for loop, and I'll make it out another difference later on. For the time being, let's go for something called a do while loop. Okay, so do while loop is used to execute. See, in case of while loop, every time the condition to be satisfied, even though if the control of the CPU or control of the JavaScript to enter into the loop or enter into this particular kind of statement, we always we need to check before entering into this particular statement, right? We need to check for the condition. Whereas in do while loop, what happens is we will execute some set of code without any condition at only one time. For the next time, we will use the condition. Say, for example, I just want to print something like some gaming application. Assume we have some gaming application or some kind of menu applications. Okay, so there you need to display what we can call menu items. Okay, so what I can go for this. So I just go for something like document.write. Yesterday we have seen the switch case statement, right? And I mean, in the last tutorial, we have seen the switch case statement where we have created some menu like this. We just created a coffee vending machine which has some menu, coffee, tea, something like that. I just want to copy this one. So when I powered up the machine, okay, you need to display this content, right? Without testing any condition. See, when I powered up the coffee machine, you need to find, or at least you need to display some menu by default on the coffee vending machine. For the next time onwards, okay, that means once your coffee got dispensed or tea got dispensed or option or whatever the thing you have choose, okay, once you got that one, again the program need to display the menu. Why? Because the second user will interact with the machine. Got it? So each and every time you need to repeat or repeatedly need to display the menu. Okay, in such kind of menu items or gaming applications, see, you know, when you are going to display a menu inside a game, okay, by default when you launch the game, by default it will show some menu, right? So without, so if you want to enter into the menu, no need to go for any condition statements. It's a waste of time. For such cases, we go for do while loop statements. Why? Because for the first time, you don't need to bother about the condition. It simply blankly it will display the content. So all these statements what I have introduced will directly display on my web page without going for a condition. Okay. For the next time, if it wants to display, then it will go with while loop statement. That means it will go. It will check for the condition, then only it will go for it. So for here, I'm going to do something like where choice is equal to 0 or choice is equal to 1. Okay, if choice, or at least I can take a choice is equal to 0, 1 is fine. Okay, now choice less than 4, not. And by the way, the thing is, the coffee vending machine should always display the menu, right, infinitely until unless we powered it off. Okay, so for this purpose, I'm going to make it as a true. The condition, it's an infinite loop. Okay, but here this is a browser, so I don't want to make it as an infinite looping statement. But this, what I'm going to do, I just want to make something 10 times. I'm going to repeat. After this, you just put a semicolon here. Now that means your do while loop is going to run 10 times, which will start from, I think it's choice. Choice. Okay, so I have created a choice variable and it starts from 1, and let me, I'll start with 0. So choice 0, 1, 2 up to 9. Okay, so it will go for 10 times. The loop is going to be 10 times. Every time. Okay, so the loop is going to be rotate now. How many times it will go for? So it will go for 11 times. Why? Because the first time it won't check for the condition. Let's see how it's going to be. It will display the same content, right? So what I want to do, so I just take this one and let's see here. See, it's entered into infinite or something, like made mistake here. Choice is not updating. See, when I'm going to use while loop statement, I forgot that placing I plus plus or choice plus plus, something like that. So I can make use of the choice plus plus here itself. Update the value. Just close it. See how many times I got? Almost you will get 10 times. Sorry, 11 times. Why? Because for the first time, you will get the do while loop statement. Okay. So inside this do while loop, you can attach this switch case. Okay. And we can, I'll explain one more thing later on. That is what is called prompt dialog box. By using that, you can get user data from the browser. Okay. So I'll explain that one. So later we'll make it out. So we'll complete the do what is called coffee vending machine later on. So for the time being, assume that the do while loop is going to execute the set of statements without depending on a condition at least once. Okay, only one time, and the remaining cases it will go for the condition. So that is about the do while loop. And one important point I want to mention here is something called native for loop. Okay, we have seen the for loop. I want to introduce something called native for loop, and for the time being, let me make this to be while loop so that I can find the difference here. This is traditional and regular for loop, and I'll go for native for loop, something like this. This is do while loop. Now I can see there is something called native for loop. This is just a logic difference only. There is no much difference here. I'll go with this. So what I'm going to do, instead of starting from 0, I'm going to start from 10, and I'm going to change the condition to greater than 0, and I want to perform something like I minus minus. What the native for loop will say is, the native for loop will work much faster than the regular for loop. Why? Because if you start decrementing the value from this one, okay, the for loop will efficiently works in the processor. Okay, in order to discuss such kind of things, you need to go for something called assembly language. I think you heard about assembly language. Assembly language. If you do find any good programming skills in assembly language, there you can find that kind of difference. Okay, it's a low-level code, the processor code. So whatever the for loop code we written, that will be converted into assembly language code, and then finally it will convert it into ones and zeros inside the computer. So if you write a for loop like this, it will take more time than this kind of for loop. The difference will find when you convert this code into assembly language, that is something like this. It will have something like Intel processor have different kind of different type of instructions, whereas Motorola has different kinds of instructions. Likewise, different processor have different kinds of instructions. Now you can see Motorola has LDA, Intel has MOV move operation will be there, where Motorola has LDA load operation will be there, something like that. Okay, so if I convert that for loop into this kind of course, obviously, every program what we have written, or every code what we have written, that will be converted into assembly language before it converted into ones and zeros. So during that time, okay, so the processor will find this is a must. This will consume much less number of CPU cycles than this one. Okay, so obviously this will works faster than this one. So for this, in order to see this, okay, I'm going to show you something called, that's fine. For the time being, I just want to comment out something. The do while loop, I don't want this, and I don't want this one also. Okay, so what I'm going to do might be the document dot write is not good. It will take more time. Anyway, I'm going to use something called console dot. There is a method. I will explain these things later on. Console dot time. Okay, use this one for loop, just for, okay, and console dot time. What was that for? Okay, time end to be there. This is the command for, and this is the way to find out how much time that this particular set of code is going to take while executing. Okay, but it will produce some weird time. Okay, it's not accurate, but you'll see how much time you will get. Now I can see I just play something called console.time, console.time, and there are two commands, two instructions that are there inside the JavaScript for the browsers. Okay, not for operating system. Console is only available inside the browser. Okay, and I just place a label this to be matched with this one. Okay, and I'm going to use console.time. I'm going to use native for loop. Okay, native. Okay, for loop. Let me use this one. Okay, now come back here, press F12. So the console is going to display something inside this console window. Basically, inside the browser, you will find three types of window. This is your regular window, document window, console window. Now refresh the page. For the for loop, it will take 2.64 milliseconds, whereas native for loop is taking 3.75 milliseconds, something like that. Obviously, this to be very less. Why? Because it's a native for loop. But the thing is, we are using something called document dot write. This is going to render something inside your DOM, right? So it will take a lot of time. So instead of this, I'm going to use for the time being console.log, which is going to print out the messages inside the console window, not the document window. Okay, let's refresh the page. Oops, where does this come? Now you can see that the for loop is going to take 3.5 milliseconds. The native for loop is going to take 2.69 milliseconds. That's good, right? So, which is faster? Obviously, the native for loop is good. It's much faster than the regular for loop. Now, I can see, is there any difference between this for loop and this for loop? Only the condition got changed. Nothing got changed. Okay. So, if you really want for something called what do you call performance, okay, not in case of regular web pages. If you go for something called if you want to uh, drag graphs dynamically, see on the web pages you can find some graphs like some, if you want to use some raw JavaScript and you want to display some graph graphical items, something like, not graphical items, some graphs like this. Now where is that? Let's developers. Something got changed here, but anyway, real-time updates, charts and collaborations. I'll show something. Sometimes you find some challenging thing. You need to draw graphs dynamically. Okay, which should be very fast. Okay, okay, not this one. This is charting. Mhm. What is this? You're writing. Let me see this one. Real-time updates. The website got changed, so I'm gonna something. Eon. Eon is a kind of thing which is used with D3JS. You heard about AngularJS, ReactJS, EXJS, AmberJS. Like that, we have something called D3JS, which is used to produce some graphs, ready-made graphs and charts. So let's go for it. Spend some time. See, you need to draw some graph like this. Let me go for spine, long gauge, spine. Okay, if you were trying to display some very instance or dynamic behaviors on your web page, definitely such kind of things need much faster code. In such cases, it is better to go for optimization like this. This is one kind of optimization of upper loop. Okay, and already I told you in case of shift operators, the shift operators will perform some divided by 2 and multiplication by 2. Okay, instead of if you perform regular division and multiplication operators, Okay, it will consume more time. Instead of that, it is better to use shift operators for in order to perform divided by 2 or multiplied by 2. So logical operators much works faster than your regular arithmetic operators. So if you really want such kind of okay, high speed applications, definitely you need to optimize your code. Okay, for every second you are getting such things. Every instance you need to update the things. Okay. Not only this, if you're trying to use the JavaScript in some sort of gaming applications, there also you need to you go for some optimization like this. Okay. Hope you understand this one. Okay. So, and by the way, this is not the accurate value. See, browser is a multitasking or multi-threading window. See, this is one thread. This is another thread likewise. So what happens is might be it is difficult to find out exact time that is going to be take for that particular looping statements. Now I can see it's got changed. It's 17 milliseconds. It's 4 milliseconds. Let me refresh again. It's got 25 and 14. Okay, might be different cases. I don't know probably what internally it will take, but obviously it's showing that the native for loop is work faster than the regular for loop. Hope you understand this one. That is native for loop. And we have seen all these kind of for loops, and we need to go for something called a for in loop. And for in loop was introduced in ES5, ECMAScript 5, which is used to iterate over enumeratable properties of an object. Okay, so generally, I've in JavaScript, an object can be created something like this. I'll explain what is an object later on. This is one way of creating an object. JavaScript is object-oriented programming, so we can create an objects. So if you use some curly braces like this, okay, then it will be an object. And I'm going to play something like, let us take this to be employee, something like Santosh. Okay, I'm going to place this one. It's a name, right? We need to place some key paid values. Name, uh, company, something like CTS. And I'm going to play something like, okay, what we can see, designation, analyst, SEA. See, these are the properties of an object. How do I print all these properties of an object inside your JavaScript? How do I access this kind of things inside a JavaScript? So let us do one thing. Yeah, I can use dot operator, but I want to make use what is it called? I want to get into the object using for loop. Is there any other way to write the for loop? See, I'm going to take variable. It's a dynamic language. Where I is equal to 0, I less than 10, I less than 3, I plus plus. So can I write something like this? Employee of I, something array notation. I just want to print this one console.log. Will it work? Let's see. Say I got undefined values. See, how do I print these things? I want to make use of my for loop statement on my object. Okay, if it is an array, you know how to create an array. Array is a collection of dissimilar items in JavaScript. Of course, similar or dissimilar items. Whereas in other languages like C and Java, we need to store same kind of data inside an array. Whereas in this particular JavaScript, we can store multiple types of data. So I'm going to take something like array is equal to, I'm going to place something like hello, a string. I can place a boolean value. I can place some numbers. and I can place. That means I can place different kinds of data here, a null value, something like that. Okay, so how do I access the array values? Okay, that is very simple. You can write a for loop, and how many values are there? Four values, five values are there. Of course, there are some shortcuts like a dot length, something like that we have, but I'm not going to use. Why? Because we haven't discussed the array still. Okay, so array of I. See, array values can be accessed using its indexed position. That means using its position, right? But object values can't be accessed like that using the position. It's a enumerated properties. Objects are enumerated properties. Array values are not enumerated. Enumerated in the sense key paid values. Okay, we need to use a name instead of zero, a of one, something like that. You need to use employee of name, employee of company, something like that. Okay. See, by using for loop, I'm able to get all the array values. But with the same for loop, I'm not able to get the values of an object. In such cases, what we do something like for in loop, that is where I in employee. This is called for in loop. Okay. So in this, now in this case, see, if we want to navigate inside the object properties, okay, then that is the this is the best way to navigate for where I in employee something for in loop. Okay, now you can see it will display the content. See, I got the values Santosh, CTS, and CA, which is not possible in a regular for loop. Of course, we can do that, but here we need to write a lot of code. Now, it's a very simple way to access the object data in JavaScript. And by the way, you see, no need to bother about the I value initialization, no need to bother about the condition, no need to bother about the iteration. So this is very simple and very easy to implement a for loop using this for in loop. Okay, but when you're going for some number type values, then it's better to go for a regular for loop. If you're trying to access enumerated properties, these are called enumerated properties. These are regular properties. Okay, indexed properties I can say. Why? Because each and every value that is going to be pointed with its index value, this is placed in inside area of 0, this is area of 1, area of 2, something like that. Whereas coming here, this is key paid values, so we call it as enumerated properties. In order to access the enumerated properties of the object, we go for the for in loop. And I'm not going to discuss about the for each loop. Why? Because it's deprecated, it's not no longer be used. Okay, of course we have a for each method is there. It's not a loop. For each method that you'll find inside the array concept. For the time being, I'm not going for that. The next one is ES6 feature, the latest one, for off loop. Okay, for off loop is used to navigate over something like arrays, map, just like this one. This is very simple way of implementing the for loop. Okay, so we have something called arrays, hashed arrays, that is called maps. Okay, strings, typed arrays. Of course, all what are we'll find a lot of ES6 features. In order to navigate all such kind of ES6 data sets, we need to go for off loop. Okay, so regularly, this is only for this is mainly meant for object in order to access the object data or enumerated properties. Okay, whereas for loop is used to access something called in ES6 feature. ES6 we have something called, okay, arrays we have. Okay, already you know that, map, sets, uh, strings, we know that, typed arrays, etc., etc. So in order to navigate all these iteratable objects. These are called iteratable objects. In order to navigate into this inside this iteratable objects, we go for what do you call far off loop. Okay, so then we can go for this far off loop. But unfortunately, far off loop. Let me check whether my browser version is updated or not. I'm going for far off loop now. I just go with the array only. So where I can go for I of array. I just want to implement it. Okay, some console.log of I value. Just place the I value. Learn what we'll get here. That's fantastic. I'm able to navigate through the for loop using far off loop. My browser is supporting that ES6 feature. Okay, some features are not going to support in your browsers. Why? Because it's still the browser need to update. Okay, of course we need to, they need to mm, uh, put a lot of changes inside the browser. Okay, so if you want to know what kind of support, you can see that. 1 second. Now I just opened. Now you can take this kngx.github URL. I just passing this URL in your chat window, and you can see different kinds of browsers here. Plenty of browsers are there. CH means Chrome browser, SF means Safari, FF means Firefox, Edge is IE, something like that. Okay, now let's see. This is I'm talking about ES5 features. I was in ES5. Chrome browser support all the ES5 features. Of course, if you find some light green means it's partially supported. See, only 98%. Okay, it's you got something like 100%, 100% something like that. Okay, you can find these are the compilers that we discussed in the starting of the program. V8 engine, Spider Monkey, Chakra is for IE. Okay, and JavaScript core, KJS, and other something like that. Okay, this is for ES5, and if you go for ES6, see a lot of red flags over there. You're not able to. That means most of the browsers like Cloud. Of course, these are the transpilers, not uh, browsers like Clouser, TypeScript, Let's Go, JS. They're not going to Okay, it's supporting ES6 sim, Kong, and IE11. It's not supporting any kind of ES6 features. If you go to the Chrome is supporting 97%. Okay, not 100%. See, no one is 100%, right? So based on that, you need to check whether this particular feature is supported or not. Okay, something called a class is supported in all the browsers. A constant keyword is supported on all the browser. A far off loop is also supporting, and that is why I got a thick green color here. Okay, that was nice. I'll just go for this. So that is why I'm able to see. See, for off loop is used to iterate over iteratable objects. For in loop is used for to navigate or in order to navigate inside the enumerable properties. Okay. So whereas for off is going to might be replace this for in loop. Why? Because it can repeat over iterator loops, and most of the functions like things like map, set, type array, that is going to be available inside the ES6 features. That is why far off was introduced. I can see a lot of things are there. Okay, as the time goes on, we'll try to use this for off loop as in our applications. Okay, for the time being, it's okay. So these are the different kinds of loops that you will find inside the JavaScript. Okay.